Welcome to the Modern Titus 2 Women Unplugged podcast, where we dive fearlessly into the untold stories and struggles of women's lives. This is a space of authenticity where no topic is off limits. Each episode is a journey of discovery and empowerment, confronting challenges with honesty and vulnerability, from maintaining a home to healing from abuse, balancing motherhood with personal passions, and navigating single parenting, widowhood, divorce, and post-abortion heartbreak. We explore it all. With special guests offering wisdom and perspective, we uncover forgiveness and reignite love in marriage. Join us for soul-stirring conversations. Tune in. Your story matters.
Okay, so good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Let me read my disclaimer. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered legal, health, tax, profession advice. We are not responsible for any losses, damages, or liabilities that may arise from the use of this podcast. This podcast is not intended to replace professional medical advice. The views expressed in this podcast may not be those of the host or management. This podcast may contain adult themes, so parental discretion is advised. So welcome. So welcome to Modern Titus 2 Women Unplugged, where we dig deep into the profound realities of our world today. I'm your host, Lorna Lewis, and on this episode, we'll confront the heart-wrenching global crisis of human trafficking. This inhumane act inflicts immeasurable suffering on millions of people worldwide, leaving families shattered and in anguish. Today, we are honored to welcome a remarkable individual whose journey embodies the strength of the human spirit in the face of unmanageable adversity. Our guest, Crystal Limpert, is not only a survivor, but a testament that with God, all things are possible. For 4 decades, she has navigated the treacherous waters of human trafficking, emerging as a voice of courage and resilience. Her story is a mixture of both triumph and tragedy, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit in the face of unspeakable horror. Prepare to be moved, enlightened, and empowered as we embark on this transformative conversation with Crystal Limpert. Crystal, welcome to Modern Titus 2 Women Unplugged. And what a story you have. What an ordeal you went through. So would you like to tell the audience, what was your, just give a little background about what happened to you. Just a short version, and then we can go to the pointed parts that we really want to capture.
Okay, so first of all, thank you for having me. Again, my name is Crystal Limpert, and I am a 40-year survivor of familiar human trafficking, and I escaped September 3rd of 2020 for the final time and realized this past December that when the Lord gave me back 40 years of my memory, that it had been 40 years and not just my adulthood.
Wow.
Yes.
What a revelation. So what were the warning signs you noticed before you were trafficked? What was the warning signs? Anything happened that before that,
So not really. So in the midst of it, I really didn't know what was going on, but I knew something was. Because after I escaped and got free, I found pictures that I had taken of myself, of bruises, of scratches, of marks, of pictures of me where I just look distorted, like my eyes tell that I'm on drugs. So I knew something was going on, but until I knew, I didn't know.
Oh wow! Yes, yeah. You were probably just between reality and a dream. You weren't quite sure if it's a dream or reality.
Yes,
that sort of situation.
But then in my childhood, I knew something had happened also. Like as an adult, I had always questioned if I'd been drugged and if something had happened because I had gone to DFS as a child, but they put me right back in the situation. So
Oh,
I knew
wow.
something, but until God revealed it to me, I didn't know for sure.
What kept you going during the most difficult moments of your ordeal? What kept you going?
Well, first of all, it was God. And second of all, it was my son. I have now a 6-year-old little boy, and it was the picture of his face and wanting to get back to him, and him knowing that I fought so hard to get back to him. I didn't
Right,
want him to think that I just left for just because. I wanted him to
right.
know that it wasn't his fault and that I tried my best to stay alive for him.
Oh, what a motivation. So he was the motivating factor. You know, he was
Absolutely.
the person who was, keeping you going all through that time.
Yes.
I hope he knows that he was loved that much for you to really fight to be with him. Yes,
Yeah. Well,
that's a
when he
beautiful
gets
thing.
older, I plan to tell him
Yes, he
never
probably, yeah,
take anything from him. I
right.
think you should always be honest with your children. I mean, age appropriate, but you should always be honest with everybody.
But the thing about it, the internet is there. So at some point he's gonna Google and see something. So at some point,
Exactly.
yes.
Yes.
Okay. So how did you manage to escape and get help? Tell us about that part. How you managed to escape from these persons who were keeping you captive. How did you escape?
Well, the last time, so when I got back from California, I didn't know that it originated in Missouri until I got back. And I ended
Mm.
up going back to where I left from, not knowing that it originated there. So
Okay.
they were playing goodbye because the one person stole my vehicle, everything in it, my phone, everything. So they were playing good guy, bad guy. So after a couple months, they gave me a phone, but it only worked on Wi-Fi. So
Mm-hmm.
every time I tried to call anybody, they would cut it off.
Yeah,
So it
okay.
was totally a God thing. So there was this one morning, September 3rd, where everybody was still asleep, and the lady called me from the place where I went for my healing. And within 20 minutes, she had an Uber there and a ticket at the airport waiting for me.
Oh
And
wow,
I prayed and ran out of the house and never looked back.
the great escape. That was the
Yes,
great escape. Yes.
yes. Well, and
Okay.
on top of that, I got on 2 airplanes with a social security card and a birth certificate with 2 last names that didn't match.
Oh wow.
Yes, yes,
But God. But
yes,
God.
but God.
Yes. So what resources or support system did you find most helpful during your recovery process? What
Well, the problem is there aren't many. So I have tried everywhere to get help because it's not just the healing, it's how do you start your life when you've had everything taken from you? So, in my research, I've learned through the government there's grants for people that are not U.S. citizens that have trafficked in the United States. But if you're a U.S. citizen in the United States, there's no grants for you. So
wow, that's
I,
interesting.
it is, and it's very sad. So yeah, so those are some of the things that I hope to change.
But I think we're in election year this year, right?
I think
So,
yes, yes,
so hopefully, we can get somebody to hear this podcast and to feel motivated to get something in place. You can't be
yes,
a citizen and you can't get help in your own country. That's I don't know what's the rationality behind that.
yeah, exactly.
So how has your experience changed your perspective on life? This whole experience that you endured, how has that changed your perspective on life? How do you react to like other people around you? Are you afraid of people? Are you apprehensive? Are you no longer trusting? What has changed from your experience?
Gosh, everything. So for the first 40 years, I was who I was told I was growing up. So I was told all my life that I was a liar and a manipulator. And all my life, I was forced to be everybody's secret keeper. I never asked for that job. I
Mm-hmm.
always just wanted the truth. So, like I said, in December, when I got those memories back, and from December or from 40 to 44, which is now, I've just been discovering who God created me to be and not who they told me I was, because that person was just to keep everybody's secrets hidden. It wasn't for my good, for my own good. It wasn't for the
Right.
best. Yeah. So now I'm learning who I am, and it's hard to trust. It really is. And I don't know if I'll ever be able to fully trust anybody, but prayerfully, I hope so. But growing up, all my life, I thought the good guys were the bad guys, and the bad guys were the good guys. So all I ever knew were to trust the wrong people. So it's really a learning experience to learn who
Right.
to trust now.
Yes, that is so true. It's so Bob Marley always says sometimes your enemy is your best friend and your enemy is your best friend, your best friend is your enemy.
Yes, absolutely. Well, and like I've said, like I won't go in detail, but if you can't trust your family and you can't trust your husband, who can you trust? But now I used to say that with the individuals, but now it's like my family has grown to a bigger population of people I can't trust. And those
Mm-hmm.
were the people I always trusted. So yeah,
Yeah,
it changes things.
definitely. Now, what advice would you give someone who suspects they or someone they know might be a victim of human trafficking? What advice would you give the person?
So it
Somebody
depends.
listening now, and they suspect some family member is being trafficked, or somebody they know is being trafficked. What advice would you give them?
So this is hard because like most trafficking victims, you don't trust law enforcement. So I think the most important thing is trust, and don't try to rescue them because it's going to make the situation worse. Find an outlet, find a common ground.
Are there any safe houses? Okay, suppose I know somebody, I suspect somebody being trafficked and I want to help them. Is there a safe house, a number, anything, any contact person that you can call or make contact with and say, well, this person I think is being trafficked, and they're at this location, and the person come and assist them.
No,
There's no safe house. There's nothing like that.
they want to talk to the victim. They won't do anything if someone calls for them.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And most of the organizations, well, I mean, there's the human trafficking hotline, but we're trying to change the law for that because it's more of a tip line. So victims don't feel comfortable calling it. And there's like, I've tried calling it recently and I'm on the phone for 4 or 5 hours and I never get through. But there is another organization called Rescue America, and they won't put themselves in danger, but if the victim calls and can get out, they'll help them, if they can meet in a common place, but that they've still got to talk to the victim first.
I'll have to talk to the victim.
Yes.
Okay, so, but that's another thing. Somebody listening to this podcast, probably that's something that needs to be put on the table.
Yeah.
How quickly because if somebody's being trafficked, they can't stay on the phone for 4 hours trying to get someone to talk to them.
Exactly. Well,
Yes.
and you mentioned safe houses. Well, there's programs, but every single one of them that I have found has a 3 to 4 week intake process. Nobody has a day to wait. You might have 5 minutes in your entire life to be able to escape, and you don't have that time.
Right.
So there's a lot of things there's a lot of gaps and there's a lot of holes that I've discovered, and I'm trying to start numerous nonprofits to help bridge these gaps and to help all along the way from rescue until restarting your new life, because there's a lot with all along the way that's missing, just like that piece with the programs and with law enforcement, changing your identity, learning a career, There's a lot
Yes.
to it. How do you explain this huge gap in your work experience? There's a lot of stuff that goes along with it that's missing.
Yes. That clearly there is really a need for someone to sit down and really look at this situation, and for the victims that are there, give them some dignity, give them some hope that when
Yes,
when that they can at least have some normalcy after a situation like that they can come
yes,
out and get a skill set and be able to take care of themselves and the family. So
absolutely.
yes, so definitely there is definitely a need for infrastructure to be put in place.
Yes.
So how can individuals support survivors of human trafficking in a meaningful way?
Well,
We spoke along we spoke along the lines of clearly getting infrastructure, but how can regular people like myself, or people listen to this podcast and want to reach out to help? How can they help? What is needed?
finances to
Mm-hmm.
be able to support the organizations. I have a lot of sisters of survival that are really trying to do a lot, but it just takes a lot of money to get started and to finance all these huge problems that need fixed.
Mm-hmm.
There's also there's if you research, there's safe houses around and domestic violence shelters, because human trafficking, domestic violence are they go together. They used to really separate them, but now they're learning that they're all very similar and they need to be put together. So a lot of those places, they'll accept donations if you want to do something on a local level, not just money, but clothing and toiletries. And I
Yes.
would reach out to local domestic violence shelters or safe houses and just say, what can I do? What do you need? How can I help?
So true, so true. Well said. Well, we sort of picked on this a little bit, but what the other question I had was, what changes would you like to see in laws or policies? We sort of skirted about that, but if you want to be a bit more specific, you can go ahead. What changes would you like to see in laws or policy to better support survivors of the present to prevent trafficking?
It really starts on a local level.
Mm-hmm.
We law enforcement and survivors need to know that they need to know they can trust law enforcement, because I would say 99% of survivors or victims are drugged. So when you go to law enforcement, all they see is a woman or a girl that's on drugs. That's all they see. But so to get past that stigma, there's got to be some law enforcement that is better trained to know what to
Mm-hmm.
look for. And I do know a lot of them are trying. I can't say on the local level how much in all
Right.
but I do know some of them are trying to learn, the signs and how to talk to them. And like you go to law enforcement and you get charged because of what the traffickers did. So yeah, I think it really starts on a local level with law enforcement and local government. There's a lot of laws that need to be changed, a lot of old laws that are in place that don't need to be.
Right. Yes. So, when persons see you, I've been on the internet and I've seen you on other show podcasts, and you have your own internet where Facebook and all of that, where you talk about your what happened to you and all that. So when people actually meet you, do you face any form of stigma or discrimination or anything when people actually meet you? What are their reactions?
Well, it's mostly shock. They say, I've seen it on TV, but I've never met anyone in person.
Right, right.
But then a lot of the men, you would think that they would be the opposite, but they seem like they're more pushy. They're more like they think that you're easy, I guess.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So and that's what I've seen with a lot of men, not all, but a lot. But women are more in shock. and they want to, they want to know the story, and they want to know, what can I do and how can I help? Yes.
Okay, that's good. That's good. So what motivates you? I mean, you're talking about very sensitive things, very personal things that happen to you. So what motivates you to share your story with others? What motivates Crystal to come out and talking about all these things that happened to her, totally uninhibited, nothing is, off the plate sort of thing. You talk about anything and everything. What motivates you to share your story with others?
Well, for so many years, I wasn't allowed to talk. And then during my trafficking, they damaged my vocal cords, so I couldn't talk.
Really?
Yes. So when I got my voice back, which was a miracle in itself, because I should have never, they said, there wasn't anybody that was a voice for me. And so I want to be the voice for the others. There's just, when you're being trafficked, it's so hard to stand up for yourself. You can't say anything without repercussions. And like I said, there's so many gaps that need filled in.
Right.
You go through this for nothing. Like, God didn't make me that way. Some people can put it behind them and go on like it never happened. That's not me. I see something that needs fixed and I want to fix it. And with God's help, I can do my part.
My personal feeling about things is that everything happened to us, the good, the bad, the indifferent. There's always a reason.
Absolutely.
So you're going through all of your situation and all of these challenges, being trafficked and all of that. You have a voice. You have walked in these people, these people who survive. You can speak to them because guess what? You've been there.
Right.
You have walked in their shoes. You have slept in some of the beds that they've been. You have felt the pain and the hit and the nothingness bringing you down to nobody.
Yes.
You've been there. You've felt it. So you can relate to them. You can talk to them. And you can show them, there is still life after all of this. There is still hope. There is still, people care about you. People love you. And I can help you. I can help you.
Yes.
That's what you're being ordained to do. That is your journey. That is your calling.
Exactly.
That's your calling.
During this, I always said, God doesn't make people this strong for nothing. And I never knew what I was going to do. But when I discovered the truth, I knew this is what God created me for.
You know.
Voice for others. And when you're a victim, you need someone that you can trust. So I want to be the person that they can trust.
Right. Yes. Beautiful. So what do you want the persons who have listened, who are listening to this podcast or will listen to it in the future and probably years to come, what do you want them to remember about your story? What do you want them to remember?
Well, I know what I don't want. I don't want people to look at me and say how strong or courageous I was or am. I want people to look at me and say how good my God is, how much he protected me. The average lifespan of a trafficking victim is 7 to 10 years. I survived 40 years. There's no way that's humanly possible without God. It's not. I could have never done this in my own strength. It would have mentally destroyed me if nothing else.
Okay, so you want them to remember that with God in the center and when you hold on and you remember there's not really a saying, for lack of I'm just gonna just paraphrase it. It's like this person is speaking to God and said, God, when I was at my lowest point, I only saw one set of footprints in the sand. Where were you, Lord? Where were you when I needed you most? And he said, my child, I was with you. I was carrying you. Those set of footprints that you saw were my footprints when I held you and I was carrying you.
Yes.
Yes. I was carrying you. Yes. I always remember that.
Very good. That's
Yes.
a great analogy for human trafficking.
Yes. I was
Yes.
carrying you. I was carrying you. So I would think that's what you want to let them know, that he will carry them.
Yes. Yes. Well,
They're not
and those that
forsaken.
don't
They're not
believe,
forgotten.
yes,
Go ahead.
and those that don't believe, I want them to know that God is real. That there's no way I survived this without him.
Right, right. All right. So what message would you share? What message would you like to share with other survivors who are listening to you? Somebody who's listening to you now and is a survivor, and they probably want to reach out to you. They want to, so how do they get in contact with you? Other survivors. Somebody might be listening to this podcast and want to reach out to you to see, what resources you have and how you can help them to get, to get back into society, to be integrated back in society. What contact information you want to leave with them?
Well, like I said, or like you said, I'm on social media. I'm on every platform. So you can either search for my name or you can search for hashtag 40-year survivor or hashtag 40-year survivor of human trafficking.
All right, so there it is. Now, I always like to ask people before they go, what is your favorite quote? It can be a quote, it can be a Bible verse, and what is that? What the message means to you? What a quote or Bible verse? Anything can be. What's your favorite one?
So when I was in California, I was looking up at the stars one night, and God told me there are 3 things that always come out: the sun, the moon, and the truth. And all I've ever wanted all my life is the truth. So now he's giving it to me.
Okay. So here we are, folks. So here we are. So there we are, folks. Through her courage and her resilience, she illuminates the path towards healing and redemption, inspiring us all to stand against the scourge of human trafficking and champion the cause for justice and compassion. I give you Crystal Limpert. What a remarkable woman. What a remarkable woman. A woman
Thank
of
you.
courage. A woman of courage. I thank you so much, and I feel so honored to be in your presence. And I thank you for trusting me in coming on this podcast and telling your story. And, we're going to try our best for persons to get a chance to listen to it and to help. We're all help. We are our brother's keeper. This world has become so compartmentalized. People don't care anymore. But we are our brother's keepers and our sisters' keepers.
Yes.
So
yes.
I thank you so much.
Thank you.
This is the podcast disclaimer. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered legal, health, tax, professional advice. We are not responsible for any losses, damages, or liabilities that may arise from the use of this podcast. This podcast is not intended to replace professional medical advice. The views expressed in this podcast may not be those of the host or the management. This podcast may contain adult themes, so parental discretion is advised.